and welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with Investing News Network. We are at PDAC in Toronto, and I'm here sitting with Baim, Director and Corporate Secretary of West High Yield Resources. Hi, Barry.
Good day.
Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So we're talking about West High Yield. Could you give us an overview of the company and sort of what projects are you working on right now?
So West High Yield Resources is a advanced intermediate junior mining company focused on critical minerals and precious metals. We're situated in Rossland, British Columbia, just north of the U.S. Washington state border, in what I would say is a very friendly mining jurisdiction, having great history with gold and silver production in the past, and with a large company just in Trail with a smelting facility.
Yeah, and you've just announced an update to your pre-feasibility study. Could you walk us through the highlights of that for Record Ridge?
Yeah, so Record Ridge is our focus at this point in time. It's a large 7.5 kilometer outcrop of an ultramafic serpentine with high-grade magnesium, 24.6% at the head. We have drilled and delineated a 1,000 by 600 meter section of that, 7.5 kilometers, representing a 43-year mine life at 1 million tons a year, or 172-year mine life at 250,000 tons a year, which is what the PFS represents. In 2013, we did the pre-feasibility study based on 1 million tons a year, and we had an NPV at that time of just over $1.2 billion. The latest PFS has now taken into account the optimization that we've undertaken for this magnesium deposit. That means we have higher yields, higher recovery rates, better market pricing, and a new extraction process, different than what we used in the past. That new PFS highlights now at 250,000 tons, $872 million NPV with a IRR of over 72%, based on a baseline price at $1,500 US a ton. So we're really excited because this new PFS will help us design not only our semi-commercial plant, but our full-scale commercial plant. So it's exciting news and a great milestone for the company.
Right, exciting indeed. So magnesium, right? If you're talking to, talking to an investor who's looking at, maybe educating themselves about magnesium, what would you tell them? Why should they be paying attention to magnesium?
So magnesium is one of the identified critical minerals or metals that you may have read about in the recent news. The last couple of years, it's very much come to the forefront with all of the geopolitical froth going on in the world. 85% of the critical minerals is produced in China, another 8 to 10% in Russia. So given what's going on today in the world, many manufacturers and countries are looking for secure supplies. The United States, for example, imports over 54% of their magnesium requirements, and they're looking for something that's safe and secure, and preferably onshore North America, which we are. So it very much bodes well. Magnesium is a critical mineral that is used in various verticals. So everything from pharma, healthcare, biomed, so it's used in hospital intravenous, many surgeries, just for our own physiology with nutraceuticals and supplements. It's also converted into a metal that's used largely in the transportation sector to de-weight vehicles. De-weighting vehicles means less energy, and in an internal combustion engine, it means less CO2 emissions, and an electric vehicle, it's obviously going to add to the range by having a lighter vehicle. The other piece that's really exciting for us and magnesium as a whole is with the current battery chemistries, there's lots of research going on right now about alternative battery chemistries going forward because of this whole critical mineral supply shortage globally. So there's been some tremendous breakthroughs both in India and in Japan with respect to going into a magnesium-based battery, which we're excited about because the early research indicates it will be longer lasting, not volatile, lower cost per watt, safer, smaller footprint. So a number of benefits to car manufacturers who are looking to not only de-weight their vehicle, but lower the cost per watt. There's many other verticals, and I could spend a lot of time, but magnesium is a critical mineral that is key to this whole net zero by 2050, the decarbonization of our planet. And, it underpins modern society.
So is that, as a critical mineral, how's the supply landscape for magnesium right now? Is it, do we have enough supply to meet the anticipated demand, or is it going the same way as, copper and lithium, where there's, widening gap?
All of the critical minerals are in short supply and will be going forward because of the desire to get into this decarbonization of the planet. And many of those critical minerals are used in especially the electric vehicle segment, which has lots of news around it right now because it's one of the big thrusts. With China and Russia being major producers of these critical minerals, you can't really count on the supply chain there. And nor would you want to, I think, as a country, because it was demonstrated a couple of years ago that the German auto industry got shut down for 3 months because they did not get magnesium shipped from China. So with those sorts of issues at hand, the fact that it's growing in demand, the CAGR is at least 6 to 8% for the foreseeable future, next 10 years, and the fact as well that in China's own internal consumption and demand for their own critical minerals and rare earths is going up, there's going to be a shortage in all these areas. So in essence, we have a strong tailwind behind us right now with respect to our project and what we have to offer. Besides magnesium, in our ore we have silica, nickel, and iron. And because of the extraction process we use, it's very, very CO2 neutral, which means not only is it a high pedigree product that manufacturers are looking for, who are trying to ensure that their own process is as CO2 neutral as it can, but our extraction process allows us to utilize over 90% of our ore. So from an ESG standpoint, that's very positive.
Yeah. So I wanted to get into that. So you're giving a high importance to your green credentials, right? Why is that important, and what have you been working on thus far in terms of your plans in this in ESG and for the future?
Well, when it comes to ESG, there's a fine balance to be achieved in reaching targets that make sense for you corporately, financially, and especially for the community and society as a whole. So our company has taken this optimization of this extraction process, which is key, that is net zero CO2 emissions. We use a acid-based leach process which regenerates itself, reuses itself, and then we use a bit of natural gas in the heating process, which we will convert to hydrogen, because the utilities provider in British Columbia feels that they'll have hydrogen in their system in the next couple of years. And then the electricity that we use in British Columbia is hydroelectric, so it's green again, and it's off the road. So that's the extraction process. From our mining standpoint, we're already in an area that is mining friendly, and we have infrastructure in place. We have over $1 billion of infrastructure built. So we're not in the middle of nowhere deforesting a bunch of roadway and pads. Basically, we're 2 kilometers into our mine site off the main highway, and the other unique thing about our resource is it's surface. So we have little to no overburden to move. The rock is at surface, and we can mine without disturbing much of an environment or ecosystem. So that's very positive as well.
Right, that's good to know. So for Record Ridge, what are the next steps for that?
So the next steps is, as you can imagine, the permitting process is a long, arduous one in Canada. And for good reason. I mean, we have some of the highest mining standards in the world. And as individuals look at what's needed to propel us into this net zero transition, mining is going to play an integral role, and responsible mining is key. So it's our intent as a company and a good environmental steward to ensure that we demonstrate the best practices in mining, in integration with our social license for our community, our stakeholders, our Indigenous folks, and anyone who is impacted by the mine. So that's where our focus is ensuring that we do bring to market a much needed critical mineral in the most environmentally responsible way.
So is West High Yield taking this project to production? Like, how far are you taking this one?
So our intent is we are very close to the permitting stage. We're at the final steps. We anticipate having our permit awarded in the coming months. We will then start prepping the road and then start mining. We are fortunate we have an LOI in place with a magnesium company called Galaxy Magnesium. And that LOI will pave a pathway to cash flow very quickly, because they're taking the first 2 years of ore production, and that's at $500 US a ton, at up to 250,000 tons, which should generate over $100 million plus for the first 2 years. And they've indicated an interest to go beyond that. So that's strong for us. And yes, we are looking at the stage beyond that, which is to build a production facility for magnesium oxide. And the 2 steps there is a magnesium oxide plant with a clean room. That clean room then allows us to produce pharma-grade magnesium, which is the highest margin products out there. I mean, it can be up to $15,000. So it's extremely good mix that we have and options in front of us. And we also signed an LOI with Big Blue Technologies, a company out of Colorado, and they have a very environmentally sensitive and cost-effective process to create magnesium ingots, magnesium metal. So for us, we have run some samples through their process, and our ore is very, very easily processed through their process. There's too many processes.
Yeah, it's process. So what other opportunities are you looking at in other aspects of your exploration program? Well,
that's a great question. I mean, the main focus, I want everyone to understand, the main focus is on why is for the Record Ridge magnesium deposit. But we have 10.6 million tons of magnesium contained. That's a massive amount in a very small area that's been drilled and delineated relative to the total size of our outcrop. We've done some step-out drilling, which to us shows that it's the same grade at depth and width throughout. But we're fortunate because of these claims that we have, which we own over 8,950 acres of claims, is the old Roslyn Gold Camp. And the Roslyn Gold Camp in the late 1800s and early 1900s produced over 3 million ounces of gold and over 3.6 million ounces of silver. So we have a number of workings on our property. We did some drilling in 2006 and 2010. We've gone back in 2022. We drilled another 41 holes or over 6,000 meters, and we've had some tremendously strong intercepts on some high-grade veins throughout. So it's, the projection is that gold's going to really grow in the next little while and escalate. We have another nice little added bonus to Y Resources, which is this gold project to the side. We're putting some energy and effort into it, and we see, I think, future value there for our shareholders and for ourselves in the company. Again, our focus is to get the magnesium up and running. It's our biggest pathway to cash flow right away.
Right, that's exciting. Definitely, as you said, gold is re-emerging as it always does. So if you're talking to an investor, why should an investor be looking at Y? Why should an investor be looking at Y or West High Yield? Why should they be looking at you now?
Why should you invest in Y, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, there's so many factors that we tick off from an environmental standpoint. The product that we're about to mine is key and critical to this whole decarbonization of the planet. So that's one. Two is it's in an environmentally, geopolitically stable environment with high mining standards. I mean, our intent is to pay, top wages for the people that are here and mine in a very responsible manner to ensure that our social license is respected by the community around us. There's a tailwind, as I mentioned, because all of the critical minerals that are needed and wanted and desired need to have a high pedigree as far as manufacturing with a low CO2 emission trail. For manufacturers looking to do that, they need a very safe, secure supply chain, one which we can offer. And we have what I would determine a globally significant world-class resource. So if you want to invest in something, we're not at the back end of a project or front end of a project, we're at the back end. We're about to produce. And if many of the explorers today, and wish them all the luck, they need to go through a long process to get permitted to go to production. And West High Yield Resources has a strong pathway to cash flow in the very near foreseeable future.
So right now you're just you're waiting for permitting. Like, what's the timeline that you're looking at for production?
So just to give you a sense, and it was both federally and provincially stated, permitting takes 13 to 15 years. So we're at the tail end of that process. We have met with the ministry a number of times. We submitted our amended permit in February of 2022. We've been addressing comments back and forth with the ministry, and we think we're at the end where we'll be placed into the final technical review, which is a finite 90 to 120-day process in the coming weeks. So we hope to be permitted in a few months. I can't commit because it's not totally in my hands, and we're doing everything we can to accelerate the process and address the comments, but we're really optimistic that we're close to that end game.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So hopefully by the time you come back to our show, we'll have some more positive news in addition to the current positive news.
Well, by the time I come out to your show next year, I may be coming to walk around because we'll be so busy we won't be able to exhibit. We'll be mining.
Yes, that's true. So hopefully you'll come back and tell us some more updates on your projects.
Yeah, I mean,
all the best.
We're like I say, we're a strong critical mineral resource onshore North America with an onshore partner who's got a voracious appetite for a lot. I mean, they would need multiple mines of our size to even put a dent into the demand. So Europe is looking for it. Canada wants to now accelerate and value add processing in Canada. So we're excited about that because that means there's some support and funding available.
Yeah.
So we're in exciting times. Critical minerals are to the forefront.
That's true. So sorry, you're in Canada, and as you said, Europe is, this is something that's also in demand in Europe. Is that something you're looking at in terms of
well, we've had
supplying?
conversations from all over the globe of interested parties to know where we are in the stage of development, when we'll be producing, because as I said, there's a global supply deficit for critical minerals, and the controlling countries are China and Russia. And manufacturers, there's many manufacturers like the Teslas of the world who have gone to a mine-to-market strategy where they have bought an interest in a mine at the core resource that's important in lithium and nickel in Tesla's case. GM placed a lithium investment into a mine. And again, what that's all about is they need to secure that supply chain for themselves. Otherwise, they're not building cars. They're not building what they want to build. And that goes for any manufacturer. And probably most important to us is the health side of it as human beings. It's an important part of augmenting pharma, healthcare, bioscience, and nutraceuticals. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us again, for sharing your company news.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Our signal is WHY on the Venture Exchange, and hopefully you now will invest in more. Thank you. Have
Thanks,
a great
Barry.
day.
You too. And thank you for watching. Join us again next time for another engaging conversation on CEO Insight.